Welcome everybody, Chef Katie May here for another episode of Delicious Living Live. Let me know in the comments that you can hear me just fine. We are making a fun and tasty combo. I can't put it any other way. That's what's happening. I have sweet potatoes here, just pulling out of the oven, and I'm going to check. I don't think they're done yet. So what I'm going to do is cut these in half. My oven, still getting used to the temperatures at a new place, but just going to cut these sweet potatoes in half and put them back in the oven so that they continue to cook. This is going to be the base for our buns today. We're making kind of like sesame buns, except no flour. Well, we have a little bit of flour added, homemade flour, but no wheat flour and no store-bought flour added. So sweet potatoes are the base, but we need them nice and soft before we can use them. And so I just want to make sure these are going to be ready for us. And so I cut them in half to cook them a little bit longer, and I'm putting them back into the oven. Okay. So we have, like I said, two awesome dishes to have. Sounds like you can hear me just fine. Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day here. Hope it's a beautiful day there. Really, that all depends on up here, what's happening up there. It's not about the weather, right? It's about your perspective. And hopefully you guys all had a great start to the day. And if not, do a little reset. We are going to make something tasty, so hopefully this inspires you to get into the kitchen and help lift your mood for wherever it may be starting right now. We have, with that oven open, it got really hot in here all of a sudden. So if you didn't get the recipe yet, I sent it out in the email just 45 minutes ago, and you can download it there. If you are not on our email list, you just happen to be stopping by and joining, then click the description in the link of this video, and you'll be able to opt to get the featured recipe today, smoky baked beans and sweet potato buns. So I'll send that to you. If you opt in, it'll be sent to you right away. If you don't see it for any reason, after checking your spam and other tabs on Gmail, then give us a shout at support@theculinarygym.com, and we'll make sure that you get that recipe. So today, like I said, we're making these buns. So these sweet potato buns are an excellent replacement to flour buns. Over the weekend, you might have had veggie burgers, or over the summer, you know, they're so popular this time of the year, and I kind of don't want summer to end. So I thought I'd just throw in one more last summer-inspired dish. I don't do flour. Actually, occasionally I might have like a bean pasta or something like that, but I rarely do flour, and I wanted to give people, I love giving substitutions for flour-based items. So the sweet potato buns are a perfect alternative to any hamburger bun. But they also work for sandwiches, or they work as a base for like an open face sandwich, which is kind of like what we're going to do today. And yeah, sweet potatoes are just so versatile. There's so much you can do with them. So you can barely hear me. Oh, thanks for letting me know. Let's see, my mic is set up to... So I can set the mic to one of the two cameras, but the cameras aren't in front of me. And I know those mics are better than my computer. So let me know. Let's do this for a couple minutes. Thanks for testing this with me. Let's do this. Let me know if this is any better. The camera off to the other side. Otherwise, I'll switch to the MacBook, my laptop microphone. Sorry, not the camera, it's the microphone. So that's great. Thank you, Dick. Okay. Yeah, so then these buns, instead of putting a veggie burger on, I actually had, my family had burgers this weekend, and we did, the veggie burger option was just a portobello mushroom, which was fantastic, but a portobello mushroom without the bun, it doesn't really feel like a burger whatsoever. It feels like if you put it on a bed of greens, it just feels like a salad with portobello mushroom, right? So having an option is really helpful. An actual bun option. And instead of doing burgers today, because I'm sure you guys have had your share of burgers over the weekend, and I actually did a burger recipe a month or so ago, my umami burger. I wanted to show you something different, and this dish is actually great to go into the fall season as well. Baked beans. Everyone loves baked beans. So check out the recipe. We'll get started. We're going to start with the sweet potatoes, and hopefully by the time I need the actual sweet potatoes, those will be done cooking. Okay, so start with a bowl. You need a mixing bowl for everything. My ear just got a little plugged up here. Okay, and then you need a blender. You could use a big blender, ideally a high-powered blender because of what we're blending up, a grain, one of the things, quinoa. We're going to make our flour. But I'm just going to use the little personal Tri-Best blender and work fine. If it doesn't get, quinoa sometimes doesn't get completely blended, like completely ground up, which is actually one of the benefits of making flour at home, is that it's going to be a little bit coarser than a store-bought flour. And in my world, that's actually quite okay. I prefer it not to be quite as fine, and I just kind of adjust my expectations on the consistency of the product we're getting. And for the most part, we don't notice a big difference when you have a little bit of coarser flour, or in this case, even a couple quinoa pieces that are actually will end up being closer to the texture of cooked quinoa rather than a quinoa flour. Totally fine, okay? So we're just gonna get a couple measuring cups. We have half a cup of the quinoa going in. That's not. So, has anyone, if you've enjoyed a burger recipe over the summer and you want to share in the comments below what that was or what was the featured ingredients, let us know. We love hearing new ideas and suggestions. So my quinoa is going right in, and it's just a little under, so I'm going to put just a little bit more, and then we're going to blend this up, making sure that your blender, your container, is dry ahead of time. You don't want a wet container, otherwise you'll end up with mush. You won't get a flour. Okay, so I have my blender here. So fast. Your homemade flour. Like I said, it could go a little bit longer to make it a little finer, and I'm actually going to do that. Let's see if I can give you a quick shot of this, how close up I can get. You see that? You can't see it too much, but there's a little bit of quinoa pieces in there. This is my new camera angle. Got a camera set up on our wall now, so hopefully that will work a little better, give me a little more space. Okay, so that's our quinoa. We'll pour it in our bowl. And next up, we're going to grind up some pecans. Pecans, again, we're going to do half a cup of the pecans. So we're making all of our ingredients here, grinding up to make flour. And I can actually mix in quinoa. The pieces are so small, and even with all that grinding I did, there's still a little bit of larger particles here. So you want to do that on its own, but with nuts, they tend to have a little extra moisture. So if you can throw in a grain like our oats here, our rolled oats that are going to have less moisture, that will actually help grind the pecans a little better, a little easier, so that they don't turn into pecan butter. Okay. Turn this on, and then we're gonna shake it up. It all gets stuck on the sides. Again, those nuts are moist, so if you overgrind them, it'll start to turn into more of a paste. So this is good. This is just what I want, and a little bit of that paste is fine. You just don't want it to be butter. But even so, that could probably work as well. Gina, yeah, I wondered about that. Thanks for letting me know the camera angle. I'm curious, everyone else, what you think of the camera angle. I know it's not the best being upside down, so let me know. Let's go back here, because ideally you'd have a camera behind me coming in this way, but that's pretty not possible. Not possible in your own, in an apartment, renting an apartment. So one day I'll have a big kitchen with a full production studio. Okay, so next up we have our sweet potatoes. We're the first ingredient, but those are being baked, so make sure you do that ahead of time. Then our flaxseed, a 1/4 cup of ground flaxseed, and this is already ground up. So we're just going to pour this in. And my flax I store in the freezer, the whole seeds and then the ground seeds as well. I store both in the freezer so that it preserves the nutrition, and they'll last longer, they'll taste better. So I'm going to put them back in the freezer. Okay. Now we have our baking powder. Going to do 1½ tablespoons. Oh, good to know about the camera. Not the best. Thanks for the input. So baking powder is optional. It definitely helps to lift the batter and lighten our buns, which is what we want, right? Buns are pretty light, especially like sesame buns, which is what we're going for here. But I'll tell you right now, it is not going to be the same consistency you get with a real bun that has gluten and sugar and oil added to it. It's just going to be different. So the baking powder will help, but it's still going to have a denser consistency. But it turns out really, really great. We just have to adjust our expectations of what we're creating when we're doing gluten-free, oil-free, sugar-free, dairy-free, egg-free. Okay, I'll grab a fork here. So I'm going to mix this all together. And break up the ones that get a little chunky, and here is the pecans and oats. Break that up. Now I'm going to pull out our sweet potatoes. And we're going to transfer these put them on another plate here to help cool a little faster. Okay. So now we want to scoop out the sweet potato. We need 2 cups. I did 2 large sweet potatoes to get this, but we probably won't need it all. Let's see. So this is a 2-cup container. Here's some biggers. And ideally you do this a little bit more in advance so that you don't have to handle the hot sweet potato. You could do this with a white sweet potato as well. Either way, the orange color is really nice, but it's not quite as orange when you make these. If you wanted to, another option instead of baking these in the oven would be to steam them. Steaming them will give you a larger water content though. The sweet potatoes won't be as sweet and larger water content. So that's something to just consider as you're putting it all together. And, you know, going to be enjoying it. So, oh, hot potatoes. And I'm gonna save these for later and scrape out all the good stuff that I didn't get to use. And of course the skins are really healthy too. As long as you don't cook them for too long where it browns the inside of the skin. I would definitely save the skins to munch on, enjoy, separate them from the buns. If you really wanted to maximize the use here, you could turn these skins into like potato skins, fill them with something else. So this looks good. Put this aside. Okay. The flax seeds surely were grounded ahead of time. So yes. You'll get more nutrition with ground flax seeds, and they will work better, do their job better in this dish, which is to help bind everything together. So the flax seeds were just pre-ground. I didn't have to grind them today on the show. Yes, Martha, congratulations on going to True North tomorrow. You'll absolutely be safe. They're going to take fantastic care of you. Not only will you be safe, you're going to be in a better situation. Fasting or doing whatever you're doing there. I know the fires are scary, but True North is really, I think it was safe. It just has good karma. I was in Santa Rosa, just a mile from True North Health Center in 2017 when the fires came right up to probably a mile from True North. I was a mile south and the fires came a mile north of True North. But everyone was safe, and yeah, just enjoy your time there. Okay. By the way, this recipe This recipe is, fantastic, but it's not like there's 3 ingredients for each one, right? There's quite a few ingredients, not too many, but a good amount. And this morning I was making my grocery list, or last night I was, and I realized that I had all of the ingredients except for one item, the jalapeno, I had already in my home, and I love that. So I'm just one blessing, always finding the blessings of this whole COVID situation, is that I started buying my food in bulk, and it's been really, really nice. But I'm not done getting that system in place. I have like all my beans in bulk. I have a lot of grain in bulk, but I want to do a better job with the grocery items. I have enough on hand, that I didn't need to go to the store, but I want to be buying those in bulk as well. And it helps not having to go to the store as often when you want to just put a dish together, but also to get the items you want, to get the quality you want, because the grocery stores are not seeing the production from the distributors and all the producers in the same way they were before COVID. And so we're not getting as many of, it's just the shelves are bare so often. I'm sure you guys are experiencing some similar things. And often have the product I want, the like gluten-free organic oats or something like that, or the salt-free version of the beans and tomatoes. And so ordering it online ahead of time will make sure that you get it all, what you're looking for. So it's actually best to do this with your hands. I'm afraid the sweet potato is going to be a little hot if I just dig my hands in there. So grinding like this. But if you can put your hands in, that's going to be best. And I will be able to. We don't want to over mix it either. So what I'm going to do actually, because this is a great, pretty even consistency, but it's just not all together. So what I'm going to do is just take a little bit and kind of patty this into my bun, right? And we're going to put a baking sheet. So I have one right here. Okay. And we'll just lay all these out. We don't want to over mix it because we want some air pockets. We want some lightness to this, and if you over process it, it's going to be not so good. So these buns are up to you on the size you make them, but in general, I tend to make my veggie burgers on the smaller side, and so I do the same with the buns. I just kind of stack them higher with tomato and lettuce and onion, but that's up to you. Yeah, what would be great, Diane's mentioning the smoke at True North. If you had an air filter, I don't know about True North if they're doing anything to help with the air quality inside True North. But I have an air filter called the Air Doctor, and it's fantastic. So if you had something like that, could purchase an air filter, would be great. Yeah, so these buns, I'm just gonna not take so much time. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist putting these together, but to get to our beans. So like I said, you could do white potato here, white sweet potato. I haven't tried white potato, but the flavor isn't as strong. So that might be something to consider. But I think it'd be definitely worth a shot. I'd love to try white potatoes in this dish. The Yukon Gold would be the creamiest, butteriest potato, and they would probably work really well with pumpkin season coming, Halloween around the corner, a couple months away, but we could do squash in here. You could do pumpkin instead if you wanted to serve these, you know, because how we're serving them is actually not, and I want a little bit more moisture in here, just a little bit, so I could pull in more sweet potato or a little more. Do a little of both. Okay, so I'm going to put the buns that I have made into the oven and leave this batter for me to use later on so that we get your buns cooking. So I can show you them done. Okay. And the oven is set to, he says 350. I just turned it down to 350. It was 375. So there we go. And we're going to flip those in about 10 minutes. Let's put on a timer. There we go. Welcome, first timer to our live stream. If you didn't get the recipe, if you're not on the email list, I'm not sure if you are or not, Cheerful Mouse, or anyone else that had joined us late, get the link in the description, opt in for the email list, and you'll get the recipes that we're making today sent to you. And that way you'll get all of the future notifications as well. Okay, so on to our next recipe, our baked beans. And here is a shot of our recipe that we're making. These smoky baked beans. Baked beans are usually made with sugar, but I'm using dates here instead. We have 3 dates. However, with this recipe, I thought I'd leave out the dates and just make it more of a spicy, smoky bean because we have the sweetness from the sweet potato. So that's just what I'm going to do today, is leave out the dates, but definitely if you're just making a standard baked bean recipe, then include those dates. Okay, so back to me. We've got this onion here. I'm going to chop up. Red onion. And who is at True North today too? I know this is my time slot. Every Wednesday at 10 a.m. I teach specifically at this time for True North patients. Everyone else is welcome to join, of course, but we're talking about how to cook with whole plant foods, but not just any old whole plant based diet. This diet specifically is focused on the whole aspect. So we're not doing white sugar. We don't do maple syrup. We don't do agave. Those are not whole foods. They're highly concentrated sweeteners and very processed. Maple syrup is more natural, but it's still been reduced so much. And so not to say that you can't ever use these things, but what I teach is how to do things with the most whole form so that you learn how to do it and then you don't have the need to add in the higher processed items like those highly processed sweeteners, but also oil. How to do things without oil, because that's just an extracted fat, right? It's not a whole food. Any oil is just 100% processed extracted fat. And the calories are 120 calories per pound. It's the densest food on the planet. So we do fat, but we do our fat from whole food ingredients like nuts, seeds, avocado, even our beans like tempeh and soybeans. Tempeh and tofu made from soybeans. They're higher in fat. And we get plenty of fat in our diet just from eating the whole foods. Not only do we get plenty of fat, but it's actually really tasty fat and super nourishing because it comes with all of the other nutrients, the enzymes, the phytonutrients, minerals, and vitamins that are needed for us to process the fat and for the fat to do its job in our body. All the functioning, helping out our skin and all the different things the fat is required for. It needs nutrients to do those things. And the beauty of the universe is that our food is packaged with all of those nutrients, a lot of them at least. And when you extract one item, like we do with fat, carbohydrates, and protein, we extract those three things, concentrate them, and then eat them as extra flavoring or supplement, right? When we do that, we're not getting the benefit of all of the other nutrients in that whole food. So olive oil, coconut oil are not healthy items in the diet. That's not to say they can't be a part of a healthy diet in small amounts, but they're not health promoting to intake. They might be good for our skin. And it's so easy to overdo it. It's a lot easier to practice abstinence. And so that's what we do here, is teach you how to practice abstinence. And I think that's a really important skill, whether you actually do practice abstinence, how to do it, how to make your food taste amazing without the oil is the key, without the processed ingredients in general. Adding my onion here to our saute pan on the stovetop. All right, I'm going to saute this up. Again, no oil added, so our pan here is just straight onion. And we're going to put the lid on the pan. I do have a nonstick pan. It's called the Scan pan, but any stainless steel pan will work. That's the pan I would recommend for most people getting started. Just stainless steel. We don't want like a copper or ironclad pan. We're going to add our garlic. Now we're going to do 3 cloves of garlic and our jalapeno. We'll start with the jalapeno first. All right. Let's do this angle again. So the jalapeno, cut off one side. I don't mind getting a few seeds in, but I try to avoid the seeds most often. So I'm cutting around the seeds here. And then I can toss that and cut my jalapeno in strips, and then we'll go the opposite way. I'm curious, you guys in the audience, let me know where you stand on sugar, oil, salt. Can you have a little bit? Who's doing, anyone doing 100% SOS free, meaning no sugar, no oil, no salt? And if you're not, are you a little bit of oil, a little bit of sugar? Is it because you feel like you can't give it up? There's an attachment, an addiction almost. Or is it because you've already come so far that you have such a small amount that it doesn't bother you having just the tiniest amount? Curious where you guys all stand and your experience with that, and if you have any suggestions. Anyone just getting started with SOS free might be feeling overwhelmed by the challenge, but I found it to be so amazing, and I enjoy my food so much more when I have the sensitive palate, which comes with not having the sugar, oil, and salt in the diet, and able to really taste the flavors of whole food ingredients. It's just amazing, and I am so grateful that I've learned this way of eating so early on, because it just feels so good. I feel so much better in my body when I'm not having all of the, not just dairy and meat. Yes, I feel much better not having dairy and meat. It's so heavy, but also the oil just makes me feel kind of gross after eating out, where there's so much oil in the diet, in their meals. And I feel inflamed as well with salt, oil, even sugar. Breaking up my garlic here, we're going to do a couple cloves, 3 cloves of garlic actually. My timer is about to go off for my sweet potatoes in the oven. We're going to let those just stay until I get the garlic in our pan here. So this is not what I recommend, smushing the garlic with your knife. It's a little dangerous, but just crack that skin. Usually you could use the bottom of a mason jar or can, something like that. All right. Yes, the pans are way easier to clean without the oil. That's a great point. There we go. So I'm going to throw my garlic in this little garlic twist I have. Put the lid on here. And you smush it down. So this is like a garlic press, but it's just a little different. I think you get to save a little more of the garlic. You actually get to use all of the garlic rather than that little piece of garlic when you use a garlic press that doesn't come through. You end up tossing. So look at my pan here. Look how much, you missed it, but how much steam is coming out. All of that water just from the onions. And I'm going to my garlic in here to get out the last of the garlic from this little twist. I just put in some water, okay? So a little bit of water here, swish it around, and pour it over. Okay. And mix this up again. We actually need a whole cup of water, and then our tomato sauce. It's actually, here's our directions again. We've got our pan already heated. So we're adding all of our other ingredients except for the, eventually we'll add the beans too, but we're going to add everything to the pot. Okay, so we're adding our tomato sauce. And a cup of water. And I'm not adding the full cup because I'm not going to cook the beans quite as long, because we'll want to evaporate a lot of that water while it's in the oven. And I'm just going to leave some of the water out. So half a cup of water. Now we have our apple cider vinegar. We'll do 2 tablespoons. And then stone ground mustard. This is Westbury Natural. That's no salt added. See that, no salt added? Great company, but they do make one with salt, so look for that no salt added on the label. 1 tablespoon of mustard. And at this point, you would add the dates. If you wanted dates in here, just dice them up and then add them. If you wanted to, you could blend them, but it's not necessary. Tamari, or a salt-free seasoning, like we have this Table Tasty here. This is made from different spices and vegetables, and it's got a great flavor, and it's like a salt replacement. So we're doing a whole tablespoon. That's 3 or 2 half tablespoons is what I have here. The only thing with the Bensons is it can get a little bit cakey, but that's okay. The flavor is so fantastic. A little bit of chili powder. We'll do a teaspoon. Chili powder. Smoked paprika, a teaspoon. And then a pinch of cayenne, just 1/8 of a teaspoon. Okay, stir this all up. And then we're going to add in our beans. We've got white beans here, great northern beans, but any white bean will work. Yum. And then we're going to put this in our casserole pan. So, this over. We've got, oh, 1 second. I've got to get my pan down. Okay, so this is our pan we're going to use. Just pour our beans right in here. Careful with the tomato sauce so it doesn't go everywhere. You definitely don't need the full cup of water, but that's up to you how much liquid you like in your beans. This recipe is close to another recipe I have. So we're going to put this in the oven just like this, and then we're going to flip our buns. Okay. These are buns here. Make sure you. So we have looking good. It's not essential you flip them, but it'll just help give you a better even consistency for both sides. Oh, and the last thing we did forget to do, I forgot to do, was add a little bit of our sesame seeds. So I have some white sesame seeds you can just sprinkle on top. This isn't going to matter because of how we're putting our baked beans over these buns. Or we could put the buns over the baked beans, vice versa. But it's kind of gives a nice look. So put these back in the oven. You know, I'm going to break it open now just to show you. I don't think it needs much longer. Can you see that? It's hard to see, but the consistency. So I just tried it. Great flavor. Nothing, it's not like you would, you know, this wouldn't be an entree that you would just serve on its own by any means. But it's got more flavor than a bun has, I'll tell you that. The sweet potato, the pecan. So it's definitely a mild flavor, but it is very nice and it will go great with the beans, which will have a lot. And the consistency, it's a little bit dry, but again, that's why the beans work so well with it, because you get to, you have that moisture from the beans to complement it, right? So I hope you guys enjoy making this. We're going to put it all together in just a couple minutes. Let's see if I have missed any questions from anyone. Great feedback about everything that's happening in your journeys. People talking about the sugar and everything. Oh, Allison, the sugar cravings are so difficult. We'll have to do a whole class about sugar cravings, and I have a great resource that I'll be sharing, and then just next week, I think it's next Thursday, a great series is starting all about sugar and flour and the addiction and what happens in our brain and how to overcome it. So stay tuned for that, and I will be talking about it as well, supplementing. But learning how to cook this way, learning how to use things like just like with the oil, learning how to use the replacements, the I like to call them alternatives because they're actually the better option and the option that we were using for generations, for centuries. We were using whole fruit to sweeten our foods. We were using nuts and seeds as our fat, and it was our modern, not so modern, but the agriculture food industry that just kind of took everything to a highly processed level, and those are the alternatives. Those are the things we don't want to be having. Man, it is so hot in here. I don't have many windows in my apartment. Actually, I only have one window in this whole apartment. So when the oven is on, I'm telling you. Well, I'm so glad you guys are all enjoying, for the people who are doing SOS free, enjoying it. Iron skillets, why not to use the iron skillets? We don't want iron in our body from extra iron from a pan like that. It's great to get iron from our food, but we don't want it from the pan. It actually, pans, yeah. Sorry guys, I'm not sure what's happening here with my ears being plugged up as well. We're getting too much, we get heavy metals from our cookware. The aluminum pans, the iron, we think a lot of people actually think they want the nutrient, the iron from the pan, but we are better off eating the whole foods rather than using those pans. It's just too much. And my main issue with iron pans is the way you put the oil on the pan. You oil it, you season it. Every time the pan is heated up and cooled down, you're getting that that damaged oil. And there's a lot of trans fats that are in that damaged oil, and oxidation and all of that that's happening there is really damaging to our bodies. And so if you were going to have oil, you would want uncooked oil, raw oil, but even that there's reasons we don't want that. But when you use an iron pan, you're doing exactly the opposite. You're cooking that oil again and again and again. So that's my issue with iron pans. Oh, yeah, Mary Jean, thanks for feeling me. I definitely, I would have thought twice had I realized that before moving in. I parchment paper is good. Parchment paper is more beneficial because we're not using the oil. We don't have to use the oil. I don't know any concern with parchment paper getting into our food, but I don't use bleached parchment paper. I just lied. I wasn't using bleached parchment paper, and right now I actually do have white parchment paper, but my preference is the non-bleached parchment paper. That's one thing I would be aware of, is to get the brown parchment paper so you don't have the bleach in there. But silicone pads are way better. I actually want to invest in some myself. I had trouble cleaning them in the past, and so that kept me away from the silicone pads, but they're actually not bad to clean either if you have a good scrubber. So feels like I'm in a sauna actually, which is another way of detoxing, a wonderful way of detoxing our body, and to actually help with cravings. Anything we can do to detox and heal the body from the inside out, strengthening our mitochondria, improving the lining of our gut, all of those little things, they actually help to curb your cravings for various reasons. So just the little things you can do to improve your health in any way, they all build on each other. It's like one step here, one step there. And every time you take another step, it makes the whole journey easier. You're just moving along and you're progressing, but it actually makes the journey easier. Silicone, it doesn't get into your food. I've said this on a couple private shows before. I don't know that I've ever announced it to everyone, but I have silicone breast implants. Actually, I have saline breast implants, but they're still in the silicone lining. And when it's inside your body, that's not what you want, because your body is going to, it basically attacks that like it's a foreign object. And that's something I want to have removed. I want to get those explanted, they call it. And that's a lot of money. So I'm just saving up for that process. But silicone in silicone cookware, it's not, as far as we know, there's no significant amount actually getting into your food. So don't worry about that. Thank you, Padraig, for backing me up. I probably need to know more about the iron as well. Yeah, I need some fans in here, that's for sure. So I'm going to pull out our dishes here and we'll put it all together. The Breville Smart Oven Air would be fabulous, except I don't have one. I did have one and I left it with my ex, and he's enjoying it, but I don't have one at the moment. So if you do have one, I would definitely recommend that. The Breville Air Smart Oven Air is like a stovetop convection oven that also does air frying and dehydrating, and that's fabulous. Okay. The Westbury mustard, you might get online. Buy it on Amazon or wherever you get your, I don't know, look for where you can get it online. No other sources. I'm not sure if Thrive Market might have it, but it is hard to find in the grocery stores. Even at a Whole Foods market, they often don't have it. I think the demand isn't high enough. They don't keep it in stock, or the production is not happening as it should. But let's take out our potatoes. And our beans. So I'm going to change the recipe actually. Good thing you guys are all watching live. The recipe calls for 1 cup of water. Definitely just knock that down to half a cup of water because you don't need it all. Look at all of our beans here. Even if it were to cook longer in the oven, we're still going to have a lot of water here. So, I'll show you. But it's going to be very tasty. I think I'm going to plate the beans on the bottom so that we can put our sweet potatoes are visible on top, our buns. And actually, how I would serve this as an entree for myself or others would be to put in some greens underneath here, like some kale, steamed broccoli or broccoli on the side. Let's see, then we have our sweet potatoes here. Let's do this. Right, so just a couple, 2, maybe some cilantro or parsley over top. A little more white sesame seeds here. A little bit of black pepper. And then, yeah, if you guys are going to be enjoying this, have some steamed vegetables on the side, some greens. You could even put the steamed kale. I actually have some steamed kale right here. Sorry, fresh kale that I plan to steam. Put this underneath the beans on top, and then your buns right on top there. So, how's that? I think this camera would be great if we just did a closer, if we could zoom in a little closer. Yes, you can use the buns for the veggie burgers, Shirley. Definitely. Yeah, hope you guys make these soon. Sarah is right. There is always prep work when you're doing SOS free, but it ends up being so much greater in the end. And actually, I'd like to get into a conversation later on. Maybe next year I'll do something where we talk about how to make this more sustainable long term, using a little bit of salt or oil in ways that make the most difference to you in the kitchen from a flavor standpoint, but also from a production standpoint, and allowing you to preserve things for longer. Just a little bit of salt can make things last a lot longer in the fridge. And we are living in a society that we are just like bombarded with junk food all the time. And even the healthy frozen entrees and everything are just loaded with sugar, oil, salt, which makes them junk food too. So it is going to be a challenge to sustain this for the rest of your life. And as you get older, it becomes more challenging if it's more difficult for you to be in the kitchen. As you have a family, of course, that takes more time. I don't have a family yet, so I'm not in that situation, but I work a lot. I need to find a little more balance with play, and part of it's, I think, also being in the kitchen, more relaxed without the stress. But if you can add in a little bit of salt or the oil without overdoing it, just like a little bit here and there, I wonder if that is better long term, more sustainable. The issue is it's very difficult to do just a little bit because they're so addictive and they can be convenient, and our taste buds love having that concentrated option. But I think that actually having, whether you do it or not, having the discipline and the power, mindfulness to be able to do something like that will only be helpful, more helpful for you in the end, because you need that type of discipline and mindfulness when you're out at the grocery store, when you're at friends' parties, gatherings, whatever it may be that you may be tempted by something. And then we are also tempted by all of these other highly stimulating for the lack of a better term, things in our society, like watching TV shows, playing video games, the screen time, the work on the screen, social media. All of these things are just pulling us, kind of pulling us down, actually, and getting stuck inside these hyper concentrated items that are not serving our health in the long run. So anyways, there's a whole nother topic, but I'm curious if you guys are, if you have any thoughts on that, let me know in the comments. I'd love to actually talk about that, because although it might be that very, very healthiest to be the most pure, I think a lot of people would find benefit from finding a couple things that actually make their life a lot easier so they can sustain this for decades to come. All right, so that's it for now. I hope you enjoy these buns. See, baked beans and sweet potato buns. The mustard, back to that mustard, I actually don't recall if Central Market has it or not. I might have bought it at Central Market in the last couple months, but I bought some online months ago before I moved here. So I have, like 6 jars in my cabinet about the mustard. So, yes, sounds great, Sarah. I would love that. You guys all have a beautiful day. Delicious day. We are going to be back tomorrow with Kathy Fisher, another instructor at True North Health Center. Kathy Fisher is going to be making us stuffed portobello mushrooms and raw apple crumble, one of my favorite desserts of hers. So I can't wait to see her. 5 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to stay up with all of our classes moving forward. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Thank you.